The umpire pulled the crews. South Africa, New Zealand, Canada, Australia, United States, Germany. Sitting at the start line of the Olympic final was a calm moment for me. All the hard work was done. All the months and years of training through cold winters and driving rain were behind us. We had navigated our way through all the political bullshit and games, made it through the last chance Olympic qualification regatta, stumbled a bit in the heat, got back on track in the semifinal, and now all that was left to do was to race. That's the fun part. I'm good at that part. And this was the goal, to have our best race when it mattered most and to win. Now, the pairs that we were racing against were monsters in the sport of rowing. No one had been within 6 seconds of Australia or New Zealand for the 3 years leading up to Beijing. And 6 seconds is a lot in rowing. I love giving this comparison to Canadian audiences, but it's like winning 10-1 in hockey. It's significant. So going into the Beijing year, it was thought that Australia and New Zealand were untouchable and that everybody else was racing for bronze. We had inserted ourselves into that top group at the main preseason race in Switzerland where we won, but we knew that the Olympics was a whole different beast, and so we were going in as contenders. Now, I'm small for a heavyweight rower. I'm 6'2", 180 pounds naturally, and my two counterparts in Australia and New Zealand were 6'8", 230 or 240. So they're big men, and in a sport of power and leverage, it's a big difference. So in the year leading up to Beijing, I tried to close that gap by eating 9 to 10,000 calories a day. And trust me, it's fun for the first day or two, and then just becomes a huge chore. Eating all of that and training 6 to 7 hours a day, 6 days a week, I put on about a pound a month. Got up to 197 and raced at 192. So going out into the water for the warm-up, I was calm but definitely aware of the opportunity that was in front of us. It doesn't happen very often. Our race plan was to get out early and to set a pace that nobody else could hold on to, and then try to hold on. We had a few sayings that we would tell ourselves at the start line to calm ourselves down. Just another time trial on Elk Lake. You know, we've done this before. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. To combat the self-doubt. And loose is fast. Loose is fast. Extra points for anyone who knows what movie that's from. So the umpire would say, attention, pause. And that pause feels like an eternity. Go. Off the start, our focus was to be quick, clean, explosive, blasting off the start and gradually settling into a more sustainable race rhythm, keeping the blades off the water, shoulders relaxed, face relaxed, nothing wasted. We had a good start and shot out into the lead with Australia. You try not to look out of the boat too much because it can throw you off your rhythm, but in my peripheral vision, I could see the other crews fading back a little bit, so I knew that we were in a good position. My pair partner, Dave, makes race calls every 15 or 20 strokes to give us a focus for that period, but also to break up the race into more achievable chunks. So you don't have 2,000 meters, you have 20 strokes, and then 20 strokes, and then 20 strokes. Getting into the body of the race, things were going well. We had a good start and got into a good rhythm. And coming into the 500-meter mark, so a quarter of the way through the race, we had just under a second lead on Australia, and everybody else was gone. It was a two-boat race right away. I have the rudder attached to my toe as well, so I'm trying to steer and make sure we stay straight in the lane and make sure we don't hit any buoys. our focus through this period of the race, the middle section, is just to keep the race, or to keep the strokes low. Keep it in the legs, not up into the upper body where you can waste a lot of energy. So coming into towards the 1,000, we still held a slight lead, but Australia had started to move back on us just a little bit. 1,000 meters to go, just over 3 minutes. You train for 13 years, or I did, and all of a sudden you have 6.5 minutes to fit all that training into 240 strokes. And this third 500 is really usually the decisive 500 where the pain can start to creep in and overwhelm your mental capacities, your physical capabilities. And so Dave had a race call at that point to keep us sort of focused, and that was eyes wide open, to be present and fully aware in that moment and not be sort of snowed over by pain. Coming into the final 500, 60 strokes to go to remember for the rest of your life. Australia had pulled even with us and gotten ahead by just over a second. 60 strokes to go. We threw everything we had at it. Full out sprint. Our stroke rate had gone to 40 to 42 to 44 strokes a minute. I could sense that they were right there. They hadn't been able to break away. Final sprint coming into the grandstands, you can't hear anything. The roar of the crowd is so loud that I can barely hear Dave making the race calls behind me. Final sprint, we pushed back into them, moved back on them, but they're able to hold us off and cross the line. So we crossed the line in second, knowing that we'd had a great race and did everything we could and went toe-to-toe with two legends in the sport of rowing, possibly the best pair ever. And we'd pushed them all the way down the course, so we had no regrets. Standing on the awards dock was a great moment for me. We had fallen short of our ultimate goal, but even then it was tough to not be very proud in that moment. I had been the guy that was not recruited out of high school because I was too small. I've been doubted and overlooked my whole career because the coaches will always go with that bigger guy under the assumption that they're faster. And now, after taking 2.5 years off and dipping my toes into the real world, I went back to training in January, and I'm back in the pair with Dave, and we have the London Olympics in our sights, just over 8.5 months to go. It's crazy. I only have 15 seconds left. So we qualified the boat at the World Championships 2 months ago, and actually just got back from the Canadian Championships 2 days ago, where we won. So things are on track. And that slide right there was the goal. Those are the London medals. So that's what we're after.